After the First World War, a group of pacifists met in the Netherlands to discuss how to prevent war in the future. One of the pacifists present there, the Swiss engineer Pierre Sarasol, proposed to bring together a group of volunteers coming from different countries, including the countries that had been in war, to reconstruct an almost completely destroyed village in the north of France. After someone said, "All this talking is leading nowhere," Pierre came up with the phrase, "We need deeds, not words," a slogan that for many years was the leitmotif of the work camp organizations. And so, Pierre initiated the first project in the small village near Verdun, which had been heavily bombed during the war. Fields needed to be cleared, shelters needed to be built for the population. So, on November the 20th, yes, almost 101 years ago, the group of volunteers from different countries arrived in Essence and started clearing the fields and building shelters for the people who had lost their homes. After some weeks, the German volunteers arrived because it had been difficult for them to get a visa. The group was complete now. It felt uncomfortable working side by side for the volunteers whose countries had been in war before, but all were there with goodwill and the motivation to create mutual understanding and friendship to support the local community in rebuilding their village. Unfortunately, the local community did not want the German volunteers to stay in the village. The wounds were too deep, and they wanted the Germans to leave. After long discussions, the international group of volunteers decided to abandon the village because working on reconciliation was one of the main aims of the project, and this was only possible with all volunteers actively being part of the project. So, sending home the Germans wasn't an option. After the first experiment, the idea was born, and Pierre did not give up. He initiated more projects in these first years, mainly as a response to natural disasters. He also got in touch with other pacifists to enlarge his knowledge on peace building and non-violent strategies to resolve conflict. One of the people that whom he exchanged letters and opinions was Gandhi. In 1931, the two men met in Lausanne, where Gandhi was invited after having participated in the Round Table Conference in London. Promoting a culture of peace through intercultural dialogue and mutual respect, through building strong bonds and real friendship, through sharing realities and showing solidarity, and by working together side by side. This has been the goal of more than 100 years. Organizations have set up networks through which they exchange volunteers and work on common projects. These networks can be regional networks such as Alliance for European Voluntary Service Organizations, or NVDA, the Network for Voluntary Development in Asia, or NAVO, the Platform for African Voluntary Service Organizations. Some networks share a common history or ideological background, such as Service Civil International, the organization founded by Pierre Sarasol, the ICYE Federation, or IBO. While each network has its own specificities, they all feel part of the same international voluntary service movement and share the same values and goals.